Alright, Joe Walker here, Yellow Mountain Farms. We're going to do something a little different. This has really been on my heart here lately. And first off, before I even get started talking about what I want to talk about, I want to give all thanks and praise to my Holy Father in heaven for leading us to where we're at today. To Him be the glory for this. And I pray that He just, that this video basically reaches those who need to hear it, who will be inspired by our story. And I just really want to talk about how we got to where we're at now. So I guess first I need to say, you know, where we are at now. So basically when I say we, I mean my wife, myself, and our two children. We are first generation farmers, and we essentially started with nothing. We didn't even live in the country. We actually used to live in East Atlanta. We moved to Northeast Georgia about 11 years ago, and when we moved, we didn't even know we were going to start farming. I actually started a landscaping business. My wife continued to commute to Atlanta for over 5 years. It wasn't quite as idealistic as we were hoping for. There was a tremendous amount of stress. And then our second child was born, so our youngest child. And part of the reason, I guess I'll back up, part of the reason that we decided to leave the city, we actually lived in a pretty rough area of town. So if anybody's familiar with Atlanta, we lived in Decatur, but not the nice gentrified area of Decatur. I actually went to Decatur High School when it was going through the process of gentrification back in the 90s, but where we lived in Decatur was right off of Columbia Drive, Columbia Circle to be exact, so that's in between Memorial Drive and Glenwood. And it's changed a lot over the years, but it definitely wasn't the best area to live or raise children, and that was pretty much our main objective for getting out of there. Is we couldn't send our oldest son, who would have been entering high school in the years to come, and there was just, private schools weren't an option because of the cost. The only private school that I saw that was worthwhile was about $30,000 a year. And so we decided to get out of there, and we essentially got out of debt. We were huge fans of Dave Ramsey at the time, and paid off our credit card bills, got out of debt, and were actually able to start saving money. And when we did that, we finally were able to purchase a house. Well, finance a house. We had a down payment. Our property in Decatur, our house in Decatur, was horribly underwater. The value of the house was way less than what we had paid for it. So there was literally no way to move and sell the house and be able to move. So we decided to rent it. So we actually rented out our house. We saved up enough money. We did the house in Decatur was completely in my name under first-time buyers. We got FHA loan, all that good stuff. We saved up the money for a small down payment on our next house, and then we rented out. We actually bought our new house in Northeast Georgia under Holly's name, and was able to get first-time home buyers again and not have to put down a 20% down payment, which is required for a second property. So and then that allowed us to have a smaller down payment and then rent out our Decatur house. So we rented it out for about 2 years. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut all this out. Let me get to the gist of it. So regardless of all that, it was a struggle. We essentially moved to the country. We cut our income in half because I quit my job and began my landscaping company, which was a fairly slow go, but did start to do well. And then Elon came along, our youngest son, and we really didn't want to do daycare or the school system for a whole host of reasons. So one of us, meaning either me or Holly, had to quit our job in order to stay home. Holly's income was steady. She was getting a check every 2 weeks. Mine was pretty much spotty at best. You know, it was a brand new company. I'd been in it for maybe about a year, and it was doing well, but we decided that we would forego the landscaping business and I would stay home. Well, I have done nothing but work my whole life, and so I was literally going nuts. After Holly went back to her job after the 3 months maternity leave, I was like, it was all on me to raise the child. And we had our oldest son as well, who was attending a private school at the time. We found White Creek Christian Academy, which was extremely cheap. I want to say the rates were about $500 a month at that particular school. So we were excited about that. But anyway, he was going to school. We did eventually pull him out as well to homeschool him, simply because that even though it was cheap, that cost got to be so much, because we essentially doubled our debt and reduced our income by half. So we were in pretty bad shape financially. And, you know, the rental was going good. That was paying for the mortgage in Decatur, and we were actually making about $200 extra a month on that. So that was going well. And I'd always made up my mind, when those people left, we were going to sell the place so long as the market had recovered. And actually 2 years later, it had recovered. So we were able to sell that place for a slight profit. And that's a whole nother story, but we took about 2 months to renovate it before we sold it, with the help of my brother-in-law. And we couldn't pay 2 mortgages, so while it was empty and we weren't getting rent for those, actually I think it was more like 3 months, we finally got it all together. And I remember the day we closed, I had literally signed the check for the balance of the, you know, for what we had made on the house, and deposited it in the bank on the way home. And when we got home to Northeast Georgia, opened the mailbox, and there was the foreclosure notice on our house in Decatur. So, you know, all praise be to God for that. It worked out perfectly for us, even though I have had a few hindsight issues, wishing we had held on to it, because we really didn't make a whole lot of money off of that house. And we actually made enough just to live for about another year before things got really rough again. And when they did get really rough again, you know, we really didn't know what to do. I was of the mindset I really just wanted to exit society. I had this vision of just living off the land and, you know, in harmony with nature or whatnot, but didn't know how to make that a reality. And it wasn't until, I guess it was Well, let me back up a little bit. Holly used to have to go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night to get up the next morning at 4 in the morning to make the commute down to Atlanta. And so me and our oldest son Nathaniel, we would either go downstairs and watch YouTube, or actually that's pretty much what we did. We'd go in the basement, watch YouTube. That's where our TV was. Play video games or whatnot until we fell asleep, and just to not disturb Holly, because she needed her rest. And I began watching, somehow come across Justin Rhodes. I think it's because I was interested in homesteading. So come across Justin Rhodes, and he was doing the Great American Farm Tour at the time, where he traveled the country, had revamped this school bus into an RV. I think he had, I don't know, four kids, maybe 5 at the time. I think he's got like 7 or so now. But they had revamped this school bus into an RV. We're traveling the country, touring all these small farms. And that's really what kind of opened my eyes to regenerative agriculture. There were 3 stories that stick out in my mind that I recall that were really inspirational to me. One was Paul Greive's Primal Pastures. Now he's with Pasture Bird. The other was Joel Salatin when Justin went to Polyface Farms, and then the other one would have been Greg Judy. So those videos really gave me hope. In particular, when Greg Judy mentioned a quote that he had heard that really influenced his life. So I don't know who should get credit for the original quote. I don't recall, but when I heard it, it was from Greg Judy, and it was, it's not about owning the land, but managing the land. So that really just struck a chord with me. And then Joel Salatin as well was talking about leasing land, and told a story about a young guy who attempted to lease land and ended up getting more yeses than nos on potential land to farm. So we're like, wow, man, I got to give this a shot, because I'd been on a health kick most of my life, I guess, since my 20s or so is I really started paying attention to health, nutrition, exercise, all that good stuff. So I really wanted to grow our own food. I just wanted to be independent and not rely on the grocery stores. And so we decided to give it a go. So it was one weekend. Holly and I drove around. We started right close to the house, and we drove around. I guess you could call it a block. I mean, but it's not anything like a city block because we're in the country. It was probably a good 15-mile block around our house, and just jotting down addresses. We were looking for places that looked like that didn't have livestock on them, and that looked overgrown, as if the person just wasn't taking care of it or wasn't around or whatnot. And then Holly drove, and I just wrote down either addresses. A lot of the places didn't even have addresses, so I just wrote down closest markers, street names, whatever I could find to identify the property. Got back home, I think we wrote down about 20 plus addresses or 20 plus property locations. Got back home, got on the computer, and began to look them up. And out of those 20 or so property locations, we narrowed it down to about 4 that were real appealing to us. So I wrote a letter, just a real simple letter saying, introducing myself. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I would like to do on your property. Are you interested? And like clockwork, it was 3 days later, I got a phone call from one of the owners who was interested. He said, "Hey, this sounds interesting. Would you like to meet at the property?" And then he also told me, "Feel free to go walk around and check it out before our meeting." And so the meeting was in a couple of days. Of course, I immediately went to the property the next day. I remember it was raining. I had Elon with me. Elon was like 6 months old or whatnot, and I had him with me, and we went, and like literally this brush, the weeds in this pasture were 8-10 feet tall. I mean, if you've seen my previous videos, that with that old barn that was built in 1893, that was the first lease. So that was 10 acres, about 6 of it in pasture, the rest in woods. And so a couple, me and Elon went, and we actually walked through that. I had him on my shoulders, and we're just like, bushwhacking through that stuff, trying to, I don't know what I was looking for or what. I just wanted to see the property. It was like, amazing, dream come true type stuff that this was happening, because, leading up to this, I've just been studying, watching everything I could watch on YouTube, reading whatever blogs I could read, and was just really leaning hard into regenerative agriculture. And then we met the property owner out there a couple days later, just me and Elon, and we had a conversation about what we wanted to do. And he mentioned he had actually already done his homework and had started talking to an agent about potential lease rates. Now, we could not afford any cash for a lease rate. So at the end of our conversation, it naturally came up, okay, what do you want to pay for the land? What are you willing to accept for the land? And I had my number in mind, and he had his number in mind, and my number was way less than half of what he had in mind, which even that number was unaffordable to me. So my idea was, this is the number, and I'll pay it to you in meat, in the retail value of good, clean meat. And he was a little hesitant at first, but his wife was right there, and she just jumped on board. She was like, okay, sounds great. So that was it, it was basically a handshake, and we got that property. And I had already bought some chickens. I had bought like 2 hens that I kept at my house, which is in a subdivision with a HOA that says no livestock, but I didn't really care, whatever. I'm like, man, we done moved from the city of, well, we weren't in the city of Decatur, but we done moved from Decatur, where actually in the city of Decatur you are allowed to have chickens. And here we moved to this neighborhood, and in what I considered the middle of nowhere, which is actually couldn't be further from the truth, but from, a city boy's perspective, it seemed to be the middle of nowhere. And I couldn't believe they were going to try to tell me I couldn't have chickens. But anyway, so, we got a couple of chickens, and they were running around the yard. Worked it out with that lease. The plan was, this was around August of 2018. So we had actually started looking for property then, in anticipation that it would take a while to find it. And we wanted to have everything situated to run pastured poultry, basically meat birds, as our first enterprise. And we wanted everything situated for the following spring. Well, it happened so quick. We got the property so fast, but it was too late in the season, basically, to start running the meat birds. And So I'm like, well, shoot, let's get some cows, you know. And there was no fence. This property is completely off grid. There was, you know, no power, no fence, no water. I mean, there was a creek running, bordered one side of the property, and a spring within the property that actually flowed down to the creek. But yeah, so it's like, okay, let's get cows. We don't have any money. We don't have any fence. We don't have any experience. We just got this borrowed land. And so we asked my mother-in-law, we don't have, you know, you got to have money to buy cows. You got to have money to put up a fence. So we asked my mother-in-law. She gave us a $2,000 loan. And with that loan, we were able to run a high tensile fence, a small solar charger, and get a couple of cows. And that's how it all began. So it was and then we actually ended up getting a couple more chickens. So we started with borrowed land, borrowed money, 4 chickens and 2 cows. And I moved those things every day around that little 6 acres, you know, clueless, you know, not having any idea other than what I had learned on YouTube and readings and blogs. I did pick up Joel Salatin's Pasture Poultry Profits, which was actually, I want to say it was written in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. So it was, you know, the money was a little off, but anyhow, that was our start. And where we're at now is we're managing 3 properties, approximately 80 acres in total. We're managing around 25 head of cattle, about 45 hair sheep, about 30 Kiko goats. We had up to 1,000 egg layers earlier this year. I think we're around 800 now, and we want to get that number actually down to about 500 or 600. We're in the process of selling one of our old flocks. What else? We got 1,000 broilers right now, 500 in the brooder, 500 on pasture, with the anticipation of doing 2,000 this year. So we've already processed our first batch of 500. Second batch is going in 2 weeks, and third batch is going in, you know, 6 weeks, and then the last batch. But anyhow, I really think it's important to share this story for people that, like me, that just really, it may seem like it can't be done, you know, it may seem like it can't be done, but it can. And I think 90% of the battle is just showing up, you know. Pick something, and this applies to whether you want to do farming, which if you're watching this video, I imagine that's what you want to do, is raise livestock or a market garden or whatnot. But it can absolutely be done. If we could do it the way we started, anybody could do it. What it takes is determination, grit, showing up. Don't stop. Don't give up, because there's going to be hard times. Plenty of them. Trust me. I mean, it has been, you know, if I quit anytime I ran into any adversity or problems, we wouldn't have lasted, you know, 2 weeks. But here we are 6 years into it, and my message to anybody out there is trust God, trust yourself, go for it, and don't stop. But thanks for watching, and I hope this inspires anybody that it needs to.